discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
Hello everyone, I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Welcome to Another View. It has truly been our pleasure to bring you another view over the past 10 months. We've enjoyed exploring topics that impact Hampton Roads' vibrant African American community and featuring your positive stories. Tonight, we look back at some of the moments of the show that not only informed, but inspired. Not to mention the times that made us laugh, sigh, and scoot to the edge of our seats. As our holiday gift to you, please relax and enjoy the best of Another View. When you see things like ATM machines in churches, security around churches, you know, some of the outside kind of trappings that those who are not churched, okay, those who are not familiar with the experience, when they look at that, they think, well, what are you doing here?
Well, I don't know, Barbara. I'm wondering if the people who have the problems with it are not the people who are not used to church. The people who have the problems with it are people who grew up in church. That's right. People who didn't grow up in church are like, man, this is good. I can go to ATM right at church. They're excited. I can go to this bookstore right. Oh, y'all have this right here. Man, y'all to get maybe y'all can get a restaurant. So I can just do everything at church because they don't have this limited paradigm.
This group is tackling some tough issues, and they aren't discussing health care, homeland security, or the economy. They're talking about topics that many of us would consider taboo outside of our inner circle. Topics like race, religion, and discrimination. When things get a little heated or something just doesn't sit right, you can always say, ouch.
I'm just so disappointed that color matters as much as it does. And so I ouched because I wasn't going to participate.
I ouched because within the African American community, there is still a tendency and a bias. I know people who would prefer to click and be around people who are light-skinned, or your hair got to be a certain way, or your eye color has to be a certain way. So as an African American, that dredges up a lot of painful, you know, feelings.
And that was a catalyst for you writing the book, Fired Up, because as a professional, you've found yourself in that position of getting that pink slip. Tell us a little bit about what goes through your mind when that happens to you.
Oh, it's tough. I mean, what I talk about in the book is really the emotional side of it. And, you know, when you talk about being discouraged, you know, it's not only those on the lower rungs, but those on the higher rungs. One of the times people don't recognize is that the higher you go up, a lot of times the steeper the fall when you're an African American, when you're a person of color. And what I talk about is sort of the emotional side, how you deal with that, how you can come back. One of the key things is that if you've been fired or if you've been hit by a 2x4 like I have, shocked, one of the things you realize is that once you come back from it, you know, there are worse things.
Like many great ideas, Breathe Again magazine was created out of a need.
5 years ago, my husband and I were separated. He's a minister, I'm a minister. We were in the church, busy doing things in the church, and he decided he didn't want to be married or in the ministry anymore. So he decided to leave. It was 5 days after I gave birth to our third child. So, you know, in the midst of our separation, I went through several emotions, ups, downs, twists and turns. I found a lot about myself. And I decided, you know, something needed to be out there to encourage other women, and I didn't find it. I had no one to go to say, this is how I made it through, or this is what I did. I was hurting just like you, and this is how I made it. Nothing was out there, so I decided to create something.
These songs or whatnot, the lyrics to the songs, they don't understand the power that comes behind that. They don't understand that the words that come out of their mouth brings forth power. And so this one song that's out called I'm a Jerk. And so you have young people who are doing this little dance and they're saying, I'm a jerk. And then someone says, I know. So now you're calling yourself a jerk. They don't realize the power that comes behind that. So I try to tell them, let's break down the lyrics. You know, who's your favorite artist? And they may say Soulja Boy. and the song Superman. I said, let's break down these lyrics. He said, super soak that hoe. Do you understand what that means? That's not a toy gun that's in Walmart. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to be real with you. And so we need to be very careful that we don't just tell them what not to listen to, but tell them why not listen to it. Tell them the consequences that come behind it, the effects that come behind it.
When the young man was killed over at Maury, and I watched the newscast, there was a young man that said, you know, he was going to make it out. It's too late for me, but he was going to make it out. This young man was about 16 years old. And so again, that hopelessness in terms of these young men feeling that they can't make it out of these communities. So what is in these communities that's enabling these young men to feel that they can't make it out? And so...
Is it socioeconomic? Is it because they're poor?
No.
And are we making a generalization in that sense?
Poverty is not a disability.
Yes.
And that's something that the community needs to understand. That's something that the public educational arena needs to understand. Poverty is not a disability. Now, being a realist, we all understand that not every child in public education is going to be a rocket scientist. But what we also have to realize is that a rocket scientist can come from anywhere. Projects, trailer parks, anywhere. Problem is, are we looking there for them?
Ironically, it was watching a performance of The Wiz when she was 10 years old that drew Leroyce Ratsveen to the theater in the first place. But it was what she saw as she auditioned for parts here in Hampton Roads that led her to create Iron Street Productions.
Now, and when you march around, it's when I wake up in the afternoon as it pleases me to do. Don't nobody bring me no bad news. There you go.
He's only 7 years old, but Malik Hawkins is well on his way to achieving his dream.
Dreams do come true, and it starts with me and you. Do you dream? Do you have dreams? I have a dream of making it to the big screen.
Malik was recently cast in the movie To Hell and Back, which is scheduled to begin filming next month. In the film, Malik plays Omar Gooding's character Ira as a child, so we asked the young thespian to recite a line or two for us.
I remember some of my lines.
Okay, tell me a little bit about it.
Shut up! If he wake up, he gonna kill us.
We had a trash hauling service, and there was some trash stuck in the ice. And so I picked up all the other trash and let that trash just stay there. I got in the truck because it was cold. So all of a sudden my door opens and he grabs me and pulls me out and takes me back to that trash that's stuck in the ice and said, look, young man, if you do this halfway, you're going to play basketball halfway. You're going to go through life doing things halfway. So you're going to take this shovel and chop this ice and get this trash out, because everything in life I want you to do it to your fullest and the best of your ability. And once he did that, that was it. Now, I do everything the right way.
People say all the time that when you work for yourself, you work harder than working for anybody else, and it's a true statement, you do. But I mean, if you have to work, you might as well put in the time for yourself. That way you know you're in control of your own future.
We live today more so in the microwave era. I have to have it done now instead of the slow cooker. So the microwave has revolutionized how cooking is done. You can take something off the shelf and put it in the microwave and it's done in a few seconds. But so when we talk about, you know, personal finances, the same thing has to happen. Money grows over time, and the statistics that are there, and talk about, always revert back to the Depression and how the market has done. There have been these various cycles over time, and the market always comes back. It always comes back.
In the midst of her chores as a volunteer, Chrissy took the initiative to prepare food for her co-workers.
I just started cooking and created a demand for food, and ever since I've been doing it and eventually became the manager. There's fresh green beans, there's succotash. Yeah, I volunteered up until I was about 16. My mother was like, well, it's time for you to get a job now. So I put an application at the farm market, and Bev was like, okay, we can do this.
I used to say, well, why me? And my mom would say, why not you? What makes you think you're any better than anybody else that you couldn't have a child with autism? So then, once you get over that initial shock, you just move on and you take it for what it is.
it lets people have hope instead of always thinking that it's like a death sentence or something.
Both Tyrone and Linda grew up in two-parent households and have worked to emulate their parents' relationships. They say growing up, most of their friends also had two parents in the household. They believe the media doesn't want to depict black families as intact, but say many are. Their strong relationship has definitely shaped the life of their only daughter, Tia, who recently captured the crown at the Miss Oscar Smith High School pageant.
They definitely have a direct influence on my life, whether it's fussing at me to clean up my room and get my homework done, or if it's to give me some advice about applying to college or planning my career.
The same things I said that night, I still say today. We are more, than what the circumstance may look like. We are more. This is just now. Tomorrow holds something better. After tomorrow is much better. We grow as we go through it.
So Amani, Justin, Nate, Crystal. So those are the 4 characters in Kingdom Kids.
While the idea came from working with children, only one of the Kingdom Kids is actually modeled after someone Joshua knows. Amani is modeled after his oldest daughter, Jada, who also sings on the CD. Alicia Gibson, along with her husband James, founded Leaders of Tomorrow Academy in Chesapeake 10 years ago. She works with children of all ages on a daily basis and has some easy activities to keep them ahead of the game. One of her favorite supplies for summer learning fun with younger children, stickers.
Students love stickers. This is the most inexpensive activity I have ever found.
Gibson's recommendation: have the child put a different number of stickers on the back of each hand, then have them count each hand separately, then all together.
Have it all together. Help me with Keenan's hands. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good job.
Michael is legally blind and has been since he was about 4 months old. He has no vision in his right eye and extremely poor vision in the left. But these glasses changed Michael's life.
And these are the VitaVision glasses, and these help my vision in my left eye go from 2200 to 2040. I was reading the eye chart. The first thing I saw was the eye chart in the doctor's office, and I've never been able to read past the third E, and when I could read EHB, I was like, wow, that's something I've been able to do, and I just kept on reading, and I got down to the 2040 line, and the doctor said, wow, this is amazing, and I felt the same way.
Thanks to a specially designed mini scope built right into the lens, Michael gets a magnified view of things. The 24-year-old says he never realized just how much he was missing. After learning of the widow's involvement in the slave trade, Clifford vowed to never sell her treasures for profit, instead displaying the remains of the pirate ship at museums for the world to see.
After we began doing research on what we had found, that the ship was owned by the Royal African Company and that it was licensed to buy and sell people, that the whole equation changed for me. At that time I realized that, we could never sell this. I'm not going to sell coins that paid for people.
What kind of sandwich is that?
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter, what else is in there?
Jelly.
And jelly. Okay, is it good? Trey, what did they serve you today for lunch?
Soup, milk, grapes, peanut butter jelly.
What tasted the best to you?
Look at my mustache.
You don't want
the grapes?
I thought you told me you would eat all
Why do you like grapes?
Mama, it's good.
Good food. Now, who can tell me if you eat a good lunch, what does that do for you?
Make you strong.
Strong and healthy children, just what we're aiming for.
When you found out you were a match, what went through your head? I know you love your husband, but you're giving up your kidney. I'm being a little flip, but one of the things that people, I think, are concerned about is because they feel like if they give up this body part that it's going to do something to them. Is that
correct? I don't think that I had that concern that something was going to happen to me. My concern was that he's not going to be here to help me raise these kids.
Carrie met the love of her life, Herman, and it wasn't long after they'd married that her one remaining kidney began to give out. Carrie thought she had the flu.
He had tried to get me to go to the doctor all week, but I just kept telling him that I thought I had this virus. And so that Saturday morning he got me ready and he took me to the emergency room. And they said that if I had waited 2 hours later, I would have died because everything was shutting down.
While Carrie knew about her condition 18 months in advance, research indicates that 43% of African Americans on dialysis didn't even realize they were in kidney failure until a week before their treatment started.
There are 2 tests that men should take, am I correct?
Yes.
In order to determine what's going on with the prostate. One is the PSA, and what's the other one?
The second one is the digital rectal exam.
That's the one that men always go, ooh.
That's exactly right. But it's a good ooh if you consider identifying a problem early enough to either get the proper treatment and move it behind you. So it's a ooh worth having.
We don't want to talk about sex. For the last few years, we've gone through abstinence only. No one actually wants to talk about children and teenagers being sexually active. You want to lose some friends, talk to them about their teens having sex, and you can lose some friends.
Do you remember how you felt when you found it? Were you scared? Were you nervous? Were you, what is this? I mean, do you remember what your attitude was?
At that time, it was, well, this wasn't there, and had really no idea that I would come back with the diagnosis of breast cancer. It's a very complicated and smart disease because you can become resistant, or the cancer can become resistant to the medication. And like I said, there's so much research going on right now. Every day there's something new, and you have to actually be smarter than the disease. Early detection is going to save your life, and if you do have the diagnosis of just not breast cancer but any kind of cancer, you can get through it. This too shall pass. And learn to not just exist but live your life, because really it is, we're just a blink of an eye away from anything.
Do you have to be in Atlanta or New York or LA, or can you actually make films here in Hampton Roads?
Most definitely. There's this wonderful burgeoning community of filmmakers who are here making a difference and contributing to the canon of film in this area.
Our role in public broadcasting, the way I view it, is to really serve those that are not being served by the commercial media. Okay. You know, I'm a white young guy, young relatively speaking, middle-aged maybe, but I'm being served fine by the commercial media. But our preschoolers are not, certainly not being served by commercial media. Seniors, minority populations. So it is our job to make sure we're serving that community. And so when I got here, I wanted to make sure we were doing that, and that's when we started the conversations about creating this program, because I looked around the station and I said, well, so what are we doing for the African American community? And I got a lot of blank stares.
Because at that time we really weren't doing any locally produced programming. African American male retention in particular. What are you doing to try to stem that tide?
Well, let me say first and foremost, and this is, I'm not bragging about this, I'm just citing a figure. Nationwide, when you look at the numbers, it hovers somewhere around 45–50% of the kids in school districts that are predominantly black. That's not the case here. Our numbers, our district average is, using a very conservative approach that the state has now put in place, is about 73%. At Maury High School, the school that was featured there, it's an 82% graduation rate.
John, why do you think people would now say that that the NAACP is not relevant? Because there's no more marching in the streets now.
That's one thing.
Because there's no more of that kind of outward protesting and so forth. But what you're saying is we're working differently.
We're working differently, yes. But remember now, they're going to begin to see some things now because of our new president. They're going to see a conspicuous race hatred right now in this country because of our new president.
The very first day of school, getting out of that car and walking up the sidewalk to Norview Senior High School, I can just envision it in my head right now. All these tall white policemen with high boots on, and I think the uniforms were black, but they had guns and looked like they were long, big guns, one little short pistol gun. And I'm thinking they're going to protect me. I don't have to worry about nothing because policemen, they're my friends. Well, they were throwing things at us, paper, balls, and little sticks and whatever. And the policemen, they just stand there looking at them and say, you better not throw nothing back at them. And that hurt. That really hurt.
When I stepped into the cafeteria from the fear of all the white people, and I saw these black people serving the food. And the first day, the lady said to me, and she says, "Good morning, Andrew Heidelberg." And she said, and this was a black lady. And she said it so loud and distinct and clear, as if she was not afraid of white people. You know what I'm saying? And I remember how calming that was to me. It was like, I mean, my eyes, you know, it was just, my eyes water now when I think about that, because after going through that day, it just made me feel so good to hear a black person speak up like that. I mean, and it made me feel like I was really somebody that day.
You know what? Inside baseball is what drives politics.
No, it isn't.
Here's the real
It's people
truth.
getting up to
Here's
go
the
vote.
real truth. Here's
It's
the
not
real
baseball.
truth.
It's voting. It's
Here's
people's lives.
Here's the real truth, and I know you like to think you understand it, but here's the real truth.
I do the best I
Creed
can.
Deeds made a major blunder. He made a major blunder by assuming that the people who voted, Democrats who voted in 2008, without contacting them, were going to turn around and come back and vote in 2009. And if you don't, no. And if you don't believe me, it's right up. The memo itself is up on Politico. Go read it.
I don't believe it. I believe
His person told him after he won the primary, his pollster told him after he won the primary that he already had a lock on the Democrats and on the African American vote, and therefore he needed to go.
But is he really that naive?
I'm telling you.
No, that's not. In fact,
y'all think I'm crazy.
You are crazy.
I'm not,
because the fact is, Bob McDonnell only got.
Are you a Democrat?
No.
Okay, so if you're not a Democrat, let me explain.
I'm not a Democrat because I'm a Virginian. I'm not a Republican.
Let me explain.
I am a Virginian.
You're not a Republican. Try again.
We don't need to rob Peter to pay Paul. We need all the services we have plus more, plus we need money for transportation. Okay. If we had a major hurricane and they closed all the tunnels, how would we get out of here? The only route is 460. 460, as it is now constituted, is not a good way to evacuate all the people who would need to get out of Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and Chesapeake. We would just have to say, Lord, here we are. Receive us.
And the fact that President Obama did step in made it a national issue. So he had to deal with it, right?
But he was wrong.
He was wrong in the way in dealing with it, or in what he said?
In dealing with it, period, without the facts. And then number two, dealing with another arrogant African-American bourgeoisie folk that don't understand who they are, where they came from, or the little thing my mama said, you're born black and you're going to die black. Never forget that.
Do you think that the president should have gotten in the middle of it?
I think the president felt obligated to make a statement in regards to what was going on because Henry Louis Gates was a friend of his. I think he regrets the fact that he said that the officer acted stupidly. Maybe if he had said both gentlemen acted stupidly, which was a more accurate statement because they both did.
All right, write this down. Never hire your family. Write that down. Unless they have the expertise. Because what has destroyed more minority businesses and businesses in general is hiring your family because they think they can come in late. They think they can go into the till anytime they want. So do what I do. I pay them to stay away.
AMA, advanced maternal age, which is it's like a syndrome when you go to the doctor's office and they say, you have AMA. I'm like, what's that? Advanced maternal age. So at 38, I was blessed with my first child, and I had a second one at the age of 40.
At the age of 40. Exactly.
I grew up in segregated times in all-white community, and I literally was taught that all black folks know each other. And so therefore,
we're all related, right?
I mean, as crazy as that sounds, and I suspect I'm not the only one in the country.
A young producer on staff who wrote a story. It was a crime story, and she said Norfolk police are looking for a black man, 6'2", 180 pounds, and she put that in my copy.
My husband.
And she said,
so it's half of America.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so she said, well, what's wrong with that? When I said, you have to rewrite that. I said, Norfolk police looking for a black man, 6'2", 180 pounds. So am I.
We hope you've enjoyed the best of Another View. We look forward to bringing you more of what Hampton Roads African American community has to offer in the new year. We also want to remind you that Another View is moving. So next week, join us at our new day, Friday, January the 8th, at the same time, 9 p.m. From all of us at Another View, we wish you and your family prosperity, joy, and happiness in the new year. And now, we leave you with the holiday classic, Carol of the Bells, performed by the Mosaic Steel Orchestra under the direction of Dr. Anthony Haley. Happy New Year, everyone.